radio show. George Basha's back. How are you, George?
Hey, champion, how are you?
Good. I was watching the movie The Combination. I picked it up from my local library, if you can see that there. Probably can't. I probably got big, but yeah. No, I picked it up in my local library. It was an interesting film that you did. There's 2 combination movies. Is that correct that you've done?
That's correct, mate. Combination, the first one I did in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And the follow-up was 2018, The Combination Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
So 2009, the combo, if you don't know much about it, it created a bit of a stir. It was actually pulled from the cinemas for stupid reasons. More than one, it was an independent film, independent backers, a lot of first-name actors, so it was a lot of new faces. Because I came from the West and it was very hard for me to get into the game, I thought it'd be interesting if I cast and gave people opportunities to chase their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I could help, so I thought, and then we did that, and some of the actors that were on there, there was Rahel Rahman, who's gone on to do great things, Firas Durrani, Claire Bump, on to Nashville. That was the first gig she ever done. She'd never done anything before that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look, the film was based on my life growing up in Western Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of truth in that. Kind of, let people into my life and growing up in Western Sydney and what it was like growing up as an Australian with a Lebanese background. People, always think it's easy and we're lucky, and we are lucky to have come out. My parents came out. I was born here, so my parents came out, from Lebanon, during the war. But it wasn't easy for me growing up, being Lebanese background. It was very hard because you're kind of dealing with the situation. Is what are you? You're between an Australian and being Lebanese, and you're fighting that at a young age. Well, it would make for an interesting viewing because it's not just Lebanese; it could be any nationality.
And it, you're saying it got pulled down from films. Why is that?
Well, apparently, from what we were told at the time, we were told that there was issues with the film causing racial divide, racial violence, and people weren't safe. And apparently, back then, event cinemas were called Greater Union.
Yeah.
And they said that, that their patrons didn't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Their workers didn't feel safe because of the film, which is a load of crap. Let's call it as what it is. It's a bloody film. I've seen a lot worse cinemas than that. And my argument back in those days was, mate, if this was an Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman film, would they have pulled it? No way. But we were the number 1 film in Australia at the time. We were compared to Batman Begins and opening weekend. And then, you can imagine me, 8 years in the making that took me to get that film up.
Shit.
Me and David Field, 8 years. And when we finally got it up, you can imagine me getting a phone call telling me that we're the number 1 film in Australia.
Wow.
And the next day getting a call saying that the film's getting pulled from all Greater Union all around Australia. It was, it was a killer. But look, the film went on to gross decently. It would have done, I reckon, double that if it had stayed in the cinemas. They didn't pull it with all the controversy. And when the film got accepted back into the cinemas, we had to have security. We had to pay for it out of our pockets.
Oh, my God.
I don't think it's ever had history in Australia anyway, where filmmakers and our distributor had to pay for security at our screenings.
Shit. Because I picked this up in in the library. I did the
combination on Netflix. It's actually shown on Netflix, part 1 and 2.
Yeah. So I find that hard to believe that the cinemas pulled it down, and yet the library's got a DVD, which is pretty cool, and Netflix as well.
Right, there you go. And the film, and I wrote the film, so the film was pulled. It wasn't pulled. It was promoted by the media as this Western Sydney Lebanese gang film. It's far from a gang film. It's when I wrote it, it's a love story. It's about the character I play, which is John, who meets a white Australian girl, and their cultures collide, and it's hard for them, to be together. And yet, I mean, you got the school stuff, but there's school kids in the film. It's far from gangster, but the media at the time, went with this gangster thing, and and it was really not where I wanted to go with the film. It wasn't what I wrote and set out to make. But unfortunately, sometimes people will take the little bit of violence in the film and glorify that than what the film is really about.
Because when I saw Convict, that was more 10 times violent than The Combination. That was more graphic as well. I thought The Combination was pretty good too. Yeah. But yeah, it's a bit weird that they pull it out of the cinemas. That's strange.
Yeah, well, back then, I think it cost us a lot of money. I think the film would have done a lot better if they hadn't pulled it. Because I had a lot of people messaging me on social media at the time, and they were scared to go to the movies because of all the fake. That's what I call it, the fake media around it, around the actual film. The film till now, I bump into people. This is like, film was released in 2009. Till these days, pull me up and tell me it's one of the best Australian films I've seen. And when I set out to make this film, I set out to my aim was to change the way Australian films were made in regards to what an Australian actor really looks like. It's not always a guy. It's not always a blonde. I'm as Australian as anybody else, and that was the thing I was fighting back then. So the film was very important to me because I wanted to be accepted as an Australian, not just when I was growing up, but as a filmmaker. And even when I made the film, they were calling it an Australian Lebanese film. For crying out loud. I mean, we shot the film in Australia. Australian actors, Australian crew. David Field directed it, one of the best Australian actors this country's ever seen. And yet, still, Australian Lebanese film. And I just couldn't, get my head around it.
No, it's very interesting. It's got some interesting scenes in it. I think there was one where, was it Faraz was getting in petrol or something because he didn't pay money back. Yeah. And there was this thing, you took money. It gets a bit complicated there. I like the story around it too.
A lot of that stuff is based on real stuff. I mean, this is stuff like, the petrol stuff, that's based on a friend of mine years and years ago when I was in my teenagers. He got petrol poured on him and he got lit. So, a lot of the stuff in The Combination, some people might see it and think it might be far-fetched. It's not. A lot of that stuff is something I've experienced personally, or I know someone that's experienced it personally. It's real. Combination 1 is based on my life growing up, in Western Sydney. That's why when a lot of people watch it, especially people from Western Sydney, it's real to them because they know this is the way it was in Western Sydney growing up.
And this, was it hard? Like, was that real petrol being poured on him in the film, or what do you guys use on a film set like that stuff?
Wouldn't do that serious, mate. No. Yeah. No, mate, it's just water. We colour the water up.
Oh, okay.
Most of the film, not most, all of my film sets, we never use, even cigarettes, mate. They're not real cigarettes. They're, everything, even the alcohol, everything, it's not real. It's all just cordial or iced tea. We avoid, anything that can be harmful.
What about firearms? Do they have to be registered, or they
well, firearms. No, firearms were real.
Yeah.
As you get, but you need, say we had safety officers and an armourer. Must have armour on set. They control all the firearms to make sure no one touches them. They're used. Safety is first and foremost. So you can't do anything with firearms, mate, unless you've got an armour and safety on there. Yeah. Because you've seen Queensland a few years ago. They had done someone went off and gone. So no, you don't. Even knives, mate. You don't muck around. Even if you're using, I know in film, if you're using fake guns, plastic, you need to have an armourer, especially in public areas, because now people see you. Police pull up. told that you're shooting a film. They see a gun, press a gun, mate, they can pull and shoot you. You know, so, you know, it's not a joke when you're using weapons on film. You got to have the right people, the right licensed people, and it costs, but that's part of the game.
In America, are they a bit more relaxed around that sort of stuff?
Nah, mate, in America, got more money than what I have, mate. They'll probably have 20 armourers. You know, I wish I had that sort of money. But yeah, nah, mate. I don't think I mean, look, in America, you know, bringing up America, Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, or blank on the set of Crow. So I'd say America would be just as, you know, tough when it comes to filmmaking, mate. Everything, you know, safety is a big thing in anything you do. If you're using weapons or stunts, you know, the safety of actors, the stunt people, you can't afford to have any of those, get anyone hurt. You know, it's the last thing you want on your set. And you know, everyone comes home. It's like you go to work, you want them to come home and go home with their family safe. And, you know, so yeah, no. But Armory is real guns and blanks. Like, you know, perfect example when we shot the combination. When, you know, Firas gets shot. You know, it was a blank, but part of the blank actually shot off and hit him in his butt.
Oh, dear.
Huge brute. And he was probably about a good 15 metres away from the gun when it fired. So you can imagine if it was something close and it fires and something like that. You know, because when the blanks go off, they're supposed to just go poof into thin air. But sometimes a tip your damage could kill you. That's what killed Brandon Lee. So, and saving hit him. So you're not supposed to aim the gun at the actor. It's supposed to be always away from the actor. The camera treats all that. But yeah, no, you have to have armory and safety.
And no, there was a scene, I think it was at the end, where what was the gangster just shot all the door and all that. Are those blanks, or how is that special effects?
No, they're not blanks. What we do, we get the door, and they've got this special kind of pellet gun, and they shoot the pellet gun, and the pellet gun gives you the effect of a bullet going to the walls. So yeah, it's like a gun, but it's like a pellet real metal top, and it's just like a bullet, bang, 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 and you just get that effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. It was on Underbelly. A lot of films do that too, that sort of special effect as well.
It's the same thing, even when you're shooting glass in the Combination Redemption, there's that drive-by when the van cops it. You know, again, you know, we've the armourer and the safety guys have got a bit of explosives in there ready to blow. Shoot, the explosives go off, and it's as if a bullet's hit the glass, but it's actually explosive inside the van that bursts the glass. You know, so yeah, so it's all tricks of the trade, mate.
It's pretty cool. I noticed you had hair in the combination. Is that you changing style, are you?
Yeah, hair and one in Combination Redemption. I lost a bit, you probably tell. Yeah, I've still got hair, but they've got a bit of bald patch. Then I just thought. And I'm shooting a new film in 2 months. We're in pre-production at the moment, and this is a look I'm going with. A bit more beard, but this is grow a bit of facial hair. But yeah, we're just getting ready for a new film. We're about to start filming.
That's so cool. You know, when you're getting the you had a main character in the combination, the parents didn't like your background in it, so there was a bit of tension in that movie too, as well.
The one. We're talking about part one, combination?
Yeah, part one, the combination.
Yep. You're talking about Sydney's parents?
Yeah. And there was a scene of the Cronulla riots too in the movie as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing with this is I remember I started writing the combination screenplay in probably 99. So the Cronulla riots had never happened. But my script never changed regarding racism. I'd grown up around it. I copped it all the time. And then when Cronulla riots happened, I had a lot of that stuff in the script prior, except it wasn't Cronulla riots, it was other riots. So when the Cronulla riots happened, we thought, okay. I remember when I gave it to a few people when they read it, I thought, the racism is too much. But when the riots happened, I said to them, is the racism really too much now? No? It was like the script was come to life at Cronulla. So we thought, okay, let's use the Cronulla riots now in the film. And there's one scene which was one of my favourite scenes in the film, is in the gym when the riots come on the television, and then you've got a room full of the boys in the gym, the boxers, and you've got every nationality possible watching this go down. You had these Aboriginal, Greek, white people all in the same room, and they're watching this TV. And I thought, wow, that's what would be going through their mind. These are guys that love each other. Doesn't matter what nationality they are. Watching that. So for me, the film was never about pointing the finger and saying at any race. It was just about and you brought up a great point when you say about Sydney's character in the combination. Her parents don't like me because I'm Lebanese, but the same thing can be said about my mother in the restaurant scene. Is to the other waitress, she's very pretty, but she's not for you. In other words, she's saying she's not for you because she's a white girl. So, it came from both sides in the film, never just from one side. And I think the biggest thing for John, for the character of John, my character, was he was fighting, what is he? Is he Australian or is he Lebanese? Because he's stuck in between these two nationalities. And at the end, we kind of find out, yes, he is Australian. So, that's the hardest thing when you're making films like this. You want to be careful because you're not trying to single out anything. It's never my intention to single out anyone. It's about, getting it out there, getting people to talk about it. Because I think if there's issues in the world, whatever it might be, racism or whatever it might be, the best way is to talk about it.
I've seen the combination twice. I have. I might watch it a third time because there's still stuff I think I missed in it too. It's quite interesting how things are changing all the time. And were you speaking Lebanese in some of the scenes too?
Well, Arabic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Arabic. So the translations were Arabic. We just thought that was how I grew up. I grew up at home. My parents migrated to this country, mate. They were in the early 70s, probably in 71, 70, 71. So my parents came and they couldn't speak English. So my dad had to go to TAFE and learn English. My mum had never been to school, even in Lebanon. She doesn't know how to read and write Arabic or English. So when I grew up in my household, they'll speak to me in Arabic because they never knew how to speak English. So I had to speak Arabic back. That's the way, I grew up. I based the combination on my household. And that's how it was. I spoke English to my brothers and my sister. But when my parents, my dad would sometimes speak English, very broken, but he'd prefer the Arabic. But my mum didn't know how to speak English. I would speak in Arabic with her. Like now, for example, I'm married with kids. My kids don't speak Arabic. They speak English to me. Vice versa. But so the combination was based on my life and how I grew up. And I wanted it to be real because a lot of migrants around my age and in that era grew up speaking either Greek, Italian, Arabic, Chinese, whatever it might have been, because their parents migrated to an English-speaking country, and most of them, I would say probably 90% of them couldn't speak English. So that was that.
Yeah, look, I know a lot of people. Australia had a lot of racism back in those days too. And what you were saying, so all this happened in Western Sydney, did it, George?
Yeah, mate, Western Sydney.
Shit.
That's all I can talk about, mate. Western Sydney. I've grown up born in Para area all my life, so I know the area pretty well. So I've grown up with, I've got mates that have done time, mates that are still in jail, and they weren't bad people, mate. They weren't educated enough, sometimes, and that's the thing about the combination. Another thing that I really want to send out was a message to the young kids that think, getting involved in any sort of criminal activity, stealing or anything, whatever it might be, gangs, whatever, you don't get a chance. You can have one stuff up in life, mate, and you're done. No second chances. And I learned that a lot through a lot of good friends of mine, that I grew up with that are really good people. And then they just made one choice in life or went to one place with the wrong person in life, mate, and their life was never the same. That's why I don't want to ruin it for viewers, but as you know, in the film, there are people that die. There are people that make those bad choices, and there's consequences for those choices. So that's why a lot of people ask me, why did he have to do this to the character? Why did he have to do that? As I said, that's how I grew up. I got great people like that made bad choices, and someone's got to pay the price.
So you wrote this on a true story. It sounds like a true story.
Based on a true story. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a film, but most of the stuff that hits home, is based on truth.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I've got to watch it a third time, George.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it 3 times. But and there was the second one. I haven't seen that yet, so I'll get around it.
Gotta get onto it like that.
Yeah, but it's like when we last spoke, we spoke about Convict, and you were saying like one stuff up in life too, and your character was an army veteran.
Yeah, but that's what life's about. Life's about choices, man. Life's about opportunities, Like you get an opportunity to walk away from something, like Convict's for example. He had an opportunity to walk away from that. He gets out of the car and his fiancée tells him, stay in the car. He stays in the car. Nothing happens. It's done. Gone. Forgotten. And I think that's life in general. And it's not just in criminal activity. It's in anything you do, It's in anything you do. You make choices in life. And sometimes they've got to be the right ones and the smart ones. And the reason why I love all that kind of stuff is because there's a human element to the films I make. Now, you watch a lot of movies, especially Hollywood these days, and I think they've just lost that human element in their movies, the emotions. I think when I like my audience, when they watch my film, I like them to sit there. I like them to cry, laugh, get angry, really ride the roller coaster of emotions. So for me, it's always everything is about choices. Everything is about family. Everything is about, what you do next or what you don't do next. So, this is the thing, So with the combination Redemption, I was never going to make a sequel. It was never in the cards. But over the years, the more I saw the world, the way it was going, like in 2009 when we did the combination, racism was there, but it was very well hidden under the carpet, if that makes sense. It was very well hidden. People don't want to talk about it. We can't talk about that now. Where when I made the Redemption in 2018, I was like, racism is there, but people talk about it now and they don't care. The world has changed. So then I come up with this great, and nothing in the world that's changed a lot is depression. A lot of people, suffer from depression. It's a big problem. And sometimes people don't seek help. So I thought, what if I brought John back and he suffers from depression? Yet everything he tries to do kind of backfires on him. He's the good guy, but whatever he touches kind of turns to crap. And again, I don't want to say anything to the viewers. They haven't seen the films, but as you know, a lot of stuff happens in part 1, and he carries that burden with him into the second one, and it's a burden that's so hard for him with the depression, which is what's caused the depression. And then what was interesting to me as well, because the world, again, all the stuff that's happened overseas, I thought, what if John falls in love with a Muslim girl? So his own race, but a different religion. Would it be different than what happened to him in part 1? So these are the things that really kind of pushed me to make a sequel. And all the this right wing, the Pauline Hanson stuff, all that stuff, Back then, I thought, this is interesting because you know what, like, and it's not an attack on Pauline Hanson by any means. I think she has some, some great things she says and some dumb things she says, but I just think putting, again, the audience in that situation, we can have dialogue and talk about things, about, what's right, what's wrong. And again, that's the way we move forward as a nation. Because it doesn't matter what anyone says. People try to tell me sometimes, there's no racism. Bullshit. And I'm not saying, and this is the thing that gets to me too, I'm not saying racism only comes from the white man. There's racism everywhere you go, both sides. There really is. So when someone tells me, the white man, it's all the white man, it's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, Eminem experienced racism.
Well, mate.
He did.
Mate, of course you will. And it works both ways. I've seen, ethnic people be racist. If someone is driving and an Asian guy drives past and they go, bloody Asian drivers. Now, I got a mate of mine that does that. He gets Asian drivers. I look at him and say, mate, that's racist. He says, no, it's not. I said, yeah, it is. You're profiling the guy. So, so look, I just think for me, I love talking about topics that bring up discussions.
I think what you're doing is good. I like watching films that have meaning to it as well. You gonna make any more in the future, or what are you planning to do, George?
Well, I'm in pre-production at the moment for a feature film called Retreat. We start shooting end of June, and it goes a 5 to 6 week shoot. It's a bit different than anything I've done. I play an ex-soldier who married, 2 kids, and he takes his kids out to a cabin that they own, family owns, passed on by generations. He comes from a family of soldiers, and they go out into this bushland with his kids who are city kids, never been out of the bush, and they stumble across things they shouldn't have. And before you know it, mercenaries are there and they want their stuff back. And, so he's got to fight his way out for his family. He's got to use his military skills to get out of the situation. So it's a bit different than anything I've done, which is exciting. So we'll see how that goes.
Is this movie going to be in cinemas, or is it going to be like on Netflix and Amazon Prime?
At the moment, what I do is I haven't kind of made a decision. Usually what I do is I make the film.
Yep.
Then I'll sit down with my team and watch the film, and then we'll decide what we think is best for that particular film. Because, there's one thing, there's a rule in filmmaking, mate. You might get a great script. Doesn't mean you get a great film. Or you might get a terrible script, but you might get a great film. So what I do is once we shoot it, we put it together, we finish it, me and my team will sit in the cinema, we'll screen the film, maybe once or maybe twice, and then we'll make a decision to think, where we go with the film. And we go from there. Either way, it doesn't bother me, mate. I mean, I'm more than happy to go straight to streaming. I think cinema is kind of on the nose. It's getting too expensive for families to go to the movies. These days people go to the movies. If you take your family, you're spending nearly a couple of $100 to go watch a film with pop drinks and all that. For $200, probably less, you have Netflix for the whole year. So,
now, because the cinemas sort of banned your movie, The Combination, how did Netflix approve it? Because that's quite interesting.
Well, because what happened after they banned it, after we had some meetings, and there's a lot of meetings involved, and we spoke to some lawyers, Greater Union actually ended up putting the film back on. So they took the film out for a few days, and after intense negotiations, they put it back on. But the damage was already done. So, because, they knew that they'd made a mistake. It's not a filmmaker's job to make their employees to feel safe. That's ridiculous. That's their job. So, but anyway, that happened. We made, Convict after The Combination, and that got theatrical release. And then we did The Combination Redemption, and we had 52 screens, around the country for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and event cinemas took it. So, that's water under the bridge, mate. That was, back in 2009. Times have changed. But look, I mean, theatrical at the moment, if you look at, it's just, I'm not sure that's the way a lot of movies are going to be going anymore. Maybe the big $100 million productions, Hollywood blockbusters will. But I think, but I'll make a decision. I mean, if the film is worthy of theatrical, then we'll talk about it. So, we'll see what happens. I don't jump the gun. I like to make a film, have a look at it, and go from there. So, I mean, I've got a good team. I've got the same team that did the combo with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're excited. We're excited for this.
No, I look forward to watching it. Yeah, I like your work, what you're doing. It's good. It's entertaining.
Yeah, thank you, mate. You should watch The Redemption. I think you'll really dig it.
Yeah, I've got to get my hands on that. Are you planning to put the combination on Amazon Prime, or do you just sticking to Netflix with that?
Well, at the moment, it's on Netflix. Once the contract runs down with them, we'll see what they want to do, if they want to renew or whatever, and then if not, we'll go from there. We'll go from there. But if you're after the Redemption's on Netflix as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get on that if you want. But look, we don't. I never say never to anything. So the film can pop up on any platform. Whoever kind of pays and wants it, we're happy to go there.
How do you feel about streaming your movies? Because I'm a musician and it's all streaming. But when you got a DVD, hard copy, what's the difference in your opinion?
Look, DVDs are for people that want to collect movies.
Yep.
Look, I'm a DVD collector, so I've got a lot of great films on DVD. So streaming these days, I know people that just buy it off streaming on Apple, for example. Combination one, I know a lot of people that bought it off Apple, Microsoft, and they've got it. But I'm old school. That's the difference. If you're old school like me, like a dinosaur, you kind of like to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for people that collect. That's all it's for. If you like to collect it, then DVD.
Do you find the royalties are better when you get DVD sales versus like streaming?
Streaming.
Yeah.
I think with DVD, especially Australian films, they just sell little copies. It's not like the big US films where they pass them everywhere. So I think streaming is better because that way people just clicking and paying for it.
See, in the music, because musicians that I've spoken to hate it. They prefer you to buy the vinyl or the CD or purchase it as a download because they're losing money.
Yeah, but
streaming.
But the reality is too, if they're doing vinyl, right? Let's say they're vinyl or whatever, then there's also a bill that they're going to get from whoever's distributing to make the vinyl.
It's expensive.
So that's then they've got to look at, okay, what's our take once they've made the vinyl? What do we get out of that? You got to work that out as well. End of the day, there's a business side of any entertainment business. What's best for your investors? They also got to look at that. So I know, for example, with DVDs, they make the DVD, so they're going to take the cost for the DVD, for the covers and all that. And if there's any posters or promotion, that also comes out of the profits. So they only take a certain amount of sales before you see a dollar. Sense? Where if you go to straight, for example, if I go straight to streaming for my movie, then I'm making a cut of that movie straight off the bat.
The reason why I asked you, do Netflix pay you properly?
Mate, Netflix pay decently.
Yep.
I say it was great. They paid decently. But I think if you go to Netflix and you give them a Netflix original and first to show it, you'd get good money. And look, if you're a big name, again, if you're an A-lister, I'm pretty sure, if you're a Russell Crowe or Chris Hemsworth, they're going to pay big dollars for them. And I'm not an A-lister, unfortunately, but I've got to admit, I was happy with what we got for the combination.
No, that's good. At least you got value for your work.
Yeah.
Some of the streaming companies are ripping people off too. And that's what you've got to be careful of.
That's the thing. Sometimes a filmmaker's got to also know their worth, mate.
Mm.
So there's the problem. A lot of filmmakers out there, they're just happy to get their film on Netflix. It doesn't matter for how much it is. But, mate, there's plenty of ways you can get your film out there. You know, because at the end of the day, you've got people that have invested in your film.
Mm.
You know, you got to try your best to get them at least their money back, and then try to make them some sort of profit. You know, I know filmmakers that forewall their own movies, and they make a good dollar. I did a bit of that with Convict.
Mm-hmm.
When we couldn't get Parramatta for whatever reason. I want to give us Parramatta cinemas, and I've got a huge following in Western Sydney. So I thought, okay, how am I going to get? Because they gave me cinemas, you know, at Narella and all that, but I couldn't get Western Sydney. So I thought, how do I get an audience in Western Sydney to watch this film? Cinemas aren't going to give me anything. So I went and hired cinema, and it was about, I think 2-3 days. We ended up running for nearly a week or just over a week to close to 4 houses.
Wow.
And we, there were nights we had 700 people in there. And that was done purely by word of mouth. So, you know, you can imagine, you know, 6-7 screenings of 600 to 700 people. You know, so there are ways out there for filmmakers to get out there. You just got to believe in their product.
Mm. It's word of mouth is the best. I think it's the best way to market.
Look, I mean, the thing with my films, the combination came out, did cinema, did very well, but word of mouth. It's word of mouth. If people like what you make and like your films, they'll watch your films. You know, every time I've had, you know, a fan or someone, you know, message me or whatever, it's always been they've seen one of my films, and then they'll Google me, and then I'll watch all my 3 films, and then I'm fans. Who I was, someone's told them. You know, and it's word of mouth. You know, perfect example of word of mouth is American History X. And you've seen that, one of the greatest films, right? With Norton. I think, yeah. So when that first came out in the cinema, it flopped. People didn't go to the cinemas and watch it. Hit DVD, it went through the roof because mouth. Oh, you got to watch this film. You got to see this. Unbelievable. You got to see it. You know, nothing beats people power.
With DVDs, we've got what's called Blu-ray. Is that like a ultra high definition versus your standard DVD?
Well, Blu-ray is better than DVD quality, but now you've got 4K out there.
Sure.
DVD. So I've never seen what they look like, but yeah, it's better. Blu-ray is better quality. Convict was on Blu-ray, and I remember to me they look the same, but I'm not into all the picture quality kind of thing. So, but no, it's better quality, better sound. But again, to have Blu-ray, you got to have a Blu-ray DVD. You have to have the right TV, the right surround sound. It's going to cost you more money. It's not just about Blu-ray and whacking it on. You got to have the right TV as well to get money.
When you're on set, are you very fussy with light as a director?
I'm very fussy with lighting. Is a big part of your film. What your scene is going to look like. So yeah, I am very fussy. But luckily I've got a very good DOP who's also more fussier than I am. Now I'm fussy with even with sound. A lot of filmmakers, especially in the US, don't really give a shit about sound. They go back in, they do ADR. As a sound person, you know what that is, ADR. They just retape everything, re-record all the dialogue.
I haven't heard of ADR, but that's an interesting one.
So what ADR is, I'm talking to you right now. If I was in a scene, say sound doesn't pick up my sound too well, or there's some noise in the background that I can't get rid of, or it's not clear, we go into a studio and big screen up. I'll watch myself playing that scene, and I'll redo the dialogue in an enclosed room to get really good sound.
What about when you were editing the combination and Convict? Did you have editors doing that for you, or was that done by yourself?
No, I've got editors. Yep. But we are in there. We let the editor go. Well, we had for the combination. One, we had Ken Sellos.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the well-known editors in this country. And then we did Convict. We did it with a guy called Mick Grucci, who was assistant on the combination as an editor.
Mm-hmm.
And then Redemption was done by this lady. Her name was Shelley. So for every film I've made, I've had different editors. But we always sit through the process. So I always sit through the process of the editing. If it's something
Wow.
I'll bring it up and I'll say, okay, let's have a look what we got. That's the fun part. If you want to lose your hair like me, fun part, mate. But no, yeah, it's interesting, especially because when you don't have, like I do my films, I don't have a huge budget, so it makes things really hard because you're moving that quick on set. You're shooting, usually you can shoot a feature films are shot anywhere between 6 weeks to 12 weeks.
Mm.
We shot the combination one, in 20 days.
20 days. The whole movie in 20 days?
Shot the film in 20 days.
Shit.
We shot Convict in 19 days.
God.
So when I say that to you, it means we are working faster than TV because we don't have the budget to work any slower.
Mm-hmm.
Actors are doing 2 takes if they're lucky, 3 takes if they're extra lucky, and then we're moving on. And we've got no choice. That's what we have to use in the film.
So even if there's a stuff up, will you have to retake that again, or
if there's a stuff up that's pretty bad, and yeah, we will. We have to retake it, but most of the time we're well prepared. The actors I employ are very well prepared, very professional. So we know when we get on set, what we need to do. So we get it done, mate. And we've done it 3 times now. So we're about to do it the 4th time. So
because in Convict you were pushing a 16-hour day, weren't you, on set?
No, mate, I'd say we're probably hitting 12 max, 12-hour days. 12-hour days. Now we try to stick to 10.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be odd days where we might go, 11 or 12. But I aim is I try not to overwork the crew. Because you kind of want to keep them fresh for the next day. So if you go too long, you just overwork them and they become tired and you're not thinking straight. So we try to keep them pretty fresh. We don't shoot weekends, so we give them weekends off.
Mm-hmm.
So go see the family, refresh, and come back Monday and go again.
So if you were in Hollywood, would they be shooting a 12, 16-hour day?
And if I was in Hollywood, I'd have a lot more money. And I'd be shooting probably 10-hour days, mate. I wouldn't have 12-hour days. I have a lot more money. I'd be shooting, for example, the combination. I'll shoot that over 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine what I'll do with that sort of money. You're talking straight away. You're talking, different, more cameras. You're talking more, equipment, more lighting.
Mm-hmm.
The shots you'd get will be unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, it's a whole different ball game. So to me, I laugh when people try to compare, independent, especially Australian films to the Hollywood films. I mean, mate, let them do what we do. Let them do. They're doing. These Hollywood films are doing something like 20, 30 takes on one scene.
Jesus Christ.
It's and that's why Australians are so good overseas in Hollywood, because we've always worked on a smaller budget than what they work on, and we don't on the mess around. We get in there, we kick its ass, and we move on. So when we go to Hollywood, they're like, these guys really work. They're not spoiled, and that's why Australians are so good over there once they get their foot in the door, mate, because that's how we all are.
Because I know in Hollywood they spend like hours putting makeup on the actors too.
But it's all money, mate. If you got money, you can do whatever you want. Mate, now in Hollywood, they're shooting the film, and they're at the same time while as soon as they've shot that scene, they're editing it on set. So
Wow.
it's a different ball game. It's you're talking about everything. Most of the stuff in Hollywood now is all green screened. So, yeah, it's a different ballgame, mate. Different money. You know, you're talking if you're doing now at the moment in Hollywood, a $40 million film is considered, you know, not high budget in Hollywood at the moment. That's probably, you know, mid-budget, low budget.
Mm.
You know, you're talking 40 million. I mean, in Australia, if you shoot a film for 4 million, that's considered a high budget. $4 million.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but depending what you're trying to make, it's not a lot of money. Depending who you want to cast, you know, it's not a lot of money. If I was going to go out and cast Hugh Jackman, you know, that 4 million probably go down to 3, maybe I might go down to 2. You might want 2 million for the role. So then you got 2 million to make the film. So is it really a lot of money? You know what I'm saying? So that's why in the US, when they're going $40-50 million productions, they're hiring, you know, 2-3 A-list actors that will take, you know, 10 to 15 million of that money, and they've still got a hell of a lot of money to make the film.
When you edit your films, what software are you using? Adobe or Final Cut?
Nah, we're using I've gone blank.
DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah,
that's complicated to use.
it is, but once you know how to use it, it's actually easy to use. It's like riding a bike. Once you're on it, you know how to use it. But the good thing about DaVinci is you also can grade off them as well. But yeah, look, I mean, every editor, I don't tell the editor what to use anyway. It doesn't bother me. So I don't sit there and I don't do the editing myself. I just sit there and I tell them what I want. They do everything. So I wouldn't know how to use any of them. But I know what we used on the last one was DaVinci. And I know on this one we're using DaVinci as well.
No, because I've used Final Cut Pro. That's industry standard. You got Adobe as well, but DaVinci Resolve,
my editor at the moment used to use Final Cut Pro, and he swore by it. He didn't want to use DaVinci, and I was like, mate, just get it, try it, you know. He's had it for about 7-8 months now, and he swears by it now. He loves it. He goes, mate, he knows how to use it, and he's really good at it. It took it the first couple of months, he hated it. So we shot this short film, and he used DaVinci, and he loved it, and he graded it with DaVinci as well. And yeah, he swears by it. Mate, look, it's like anything, you know. I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I think to me, whatever the editor's comfortable with. It's, for example, you know, my DOP. I'll go in, we'll sit down. I'll know what camera he's comfortable with, and then he makes a decision because he's going to shoot it. Then if I like that camera and we both agree to it, perfect. Let's do it. We use that.
Because there's so many different cameras out there, George.
Everything.
You know, I mean, can you actually shoot a good quality movie on an iPhone these days, or you prefer a camera, proper camera? People have
shot them on Canon now, the Canon cameras.
Yeah.
Film that look unbelievable. I shot the combination on the Red Part 1.
Yeah.
The Convict and Combination Redemption was shot on Alexa. This new one was shooting on a Sony. So, mate, these days cameras, you can shoot it on anything, mate. Honestly, like, if you get your lighting right, you got the right, cookies or lenses, it'll look amazing. You know, cameras these days, they all come now, you know, in 4K. You know, it's what you're after. But the only difference with cameras is, like, for example, the Alexa is really good in post. So if you shoot stuff, you can play around with the picture in post. You know, and then you've got other cameras that are shoot really good at nights. You know, especially with lights and all that. So it depends what you want. So what I usually do is, if I've got a film I'm shooting and it's mostly day, so we'll do some camera tests. We'll have 3 or 4 cameras that we think we want to use, and we'll take those cameras out and we'll test them. And we'll shoot footage, and then we'll have a look at the footage, and we'll see what we think works best, and we'll make a decision.
So it's all personal preference by the sounds of it.
It depends on the project too. Sometimes sometimes a camera can be better. If you're doing like nice stuff, a certain camera will be better than other certain cameras.
Mm.
So and sometimes you can get a DOP. So most DOPs have preferences because they use cameras. They're usually good at what cameras they use, and they know the camera inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And like now, people are moving to drones now. You remember the old days of helicopters? Have you started looking at drones?
Yeah,
your work.
We're using some drone shots in this new film that we're shooting. You got to have a license for it. No one can fly a drone. My DOP is licensed, so yeah. No, drones are good. So there's still laws around them though.
Mm.
But I mean, look, drones are good for establishing shots. I still like the camera down on the floor or right up there. I like actors doing their thing. Drones are nice to give you that nice, beautiful landscape. Give the viewer an idea of the landscape. But when it comes to the kind of filmmaking, I like the actors doing the work. I think it's acting. It's actor driven. That's how I like it.
And no, because films change so much because helicopters are so expensive, George, to run that thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Getting someone to operate a drone is expensive too. But yeah, look, it's changed a lot. I mean, everything, even with the Ronins, these days you can get a Ronin, you can put a camera on there and you can run and the thing won't shake. So technology is changing all the time. Every year something comes out. Every year there's a new camera. Every year some new gadget comes out that you can use in filmmaking. So, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. Technology is always changing, always advancing. And it's made it easier for filmmakers go out like me to be able to go out and make films because you're not having to go out and get, the real expensive stuff, which mind you, I did on the last 3 projects. The Alexa is one of the best cameras going around. So I'm a big believer, put all your money in production and get it on the screen. But yeah, mate, I got a friend of mine who just shot on a 7,000. He went and bought a $7,000 camera, a Black Magic, and he shot a film, and it looks amazing. See some of that, it looks amazing. I want to know what kind of camera it was that was shot on by looking at the pictures. So
yeah, it's changing all the time. It's amazing what's coming out too every year.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of it. You got to stay on top of it all the time. You got to learn.
What about GoPros? Are you looking at using any GoPros in the future?
We might in this new film because there's some water scenes in it. Actually, there's a big fight scene in water. So we might look at using it GoPro in that. So again, I'll sit down with my DOP and we discuss it and we think, what do we want to use? Which are we going to go with it?
So in the Convict, you did when we last spoke, you were doing all your own stunts and you hurt your ankle. Is that correct?
Convict, I hurt more than my ankle. I hurt hurt my back, hurt my lower back. There's a scene where they picked me up in that wood shop and they smashed me on that table. I don't know if you remember it. They just picked me up and they slammed me. And when we were doing in the rehearsing, I didn't know that that table was still this thick. I never knew. So the first time they picked me up and we were filming, and they've just slammed me really hard. Mate, when your body kind of hits and you just feel like your bones just stopped there, but your body's kind of shaking. Right? And we had to do that like 5 times.
Oh, gee.
All the actors. Because the last thing I wanted, because it was a close shot, real close up on them, is I didn't want them to take it easy on me. So I didn't want them to start worrying, putting me down easy. Because, camera will pick up everything. So I copped about another 4 or 5 of those. The next morning, I couldn't get out of bed.
Mm.
And I'm like, what was going on? I said, my back, I can't move. And I had to be on set, in 2 hours. And we're doing another big fight scene. And I was like, I think the production's going to stop. So then my wife helped me get out of the bed. She filled up the bath, hot water, sat in hot water for a bit. Kind of started feeling the muscles come back in,
Mm.
So I thought, okay, got out, showered, went outside to the backyard, grabbed my skipping rope, did a bit of skipping, bit of spunk. Felt good. Went to set, continued filming.
So you didn't go take any painkillers?
Nah. I don't take any of that stuff, mate. Part of making films like I do, the films I make, there's action in it. Drama of action, and you've got to take some hits.
Because Richard Green, he had pneumonia, didn't he? Yeah.
I think we all did, mate. We were doing our shower scenes, and it was in the middle of winter in Parramatta Jail, and it was cold water coming out of the shower heads. We didn't have any hot water, and we were freezing. If you look carefully, I'm going to see, you can see my nipple is that hard because I was freezing. So what they had for us was they had big buckets of hot water. So as soon as they called cut, we'll jump into the hot water and have blankets put over us because we were like, oh my God. So yeah, mate, it was he copped it pretty bad, Richie. Copped it pretty bad. Yeah.
Oh my God. Because most actors, they got their own stuntmen that do all that stuff.
Yeah. Again, mate.
Mm.
And again, so you know what? I prefer to do my own stunts. You film about the makers. This film's full of action. I'm going to do all my own stunts, and I know I'm going to cop a few. I know I'm going to.
Are you a trained stuntman, or are you just doing it?
Mate, I'm not a trained. I used to do a lot of fighting when I was younger. So I've done boxing, martial arts, kung fu. I've done it all. So I kind of know how to fall, how to do all that stuff. So I'm not licensed, but I do my own. But we have safety officers on set and stunt guys on set that look over everything. Look, I always have, me and the stunt guys always like, no, mate, you can't do that. I'm going to do it. No, you can't. I make it happen. I'm going to do it. So let's train to do it. You're crazy. But I mean, this is the thing. If it's like, if you're shooting a fight scene, you got to be willing to take a hit because you know what's going to happen. You're going to accidentally get hit. You're throwing that many punches. When you watch The Redemption, there's a big boxing scene in it.
Were you really actually boxing hard in that scene?
Yeah, mate. I copped a black eye.
You were boxing. Shit.
Action 1. That guy's name is Tony Weeby. He's an ex-professional boxer. So this guy was the real deal, and he caught me with I think it was a jab, a really good jab, and my eye, I couldn't see out of it anymore. It blew up, and I remember David Field directed. He was going off, saying, "I don't care what you got to do, get his eye down. His eye's got to go down. It was starting to pop right up. I couldn't see out of it. So we had a nurse, and she was just massaging the eye to bring it down, because that was only the 3rd or 4th day of the shoot.
Oh, God.
Because, the film isn't shot in order. So if you look carefully through the combination, there are scenes. I've got makeup. I had a black eye for 2 weeks of that shoot. They had to cover my black eye with makeup. In the combination Redemption, I do have this fight scene with George Kambosos Jr. He's fighting for the title in a few weeks. He's the real deal. And he caught me with a hit. And I've seen it coming, mind you, but I knew the camera was right there. So I was like, I have to take this hit. And they don't tickle. But I think that's part of the game.
How many ounce boxing gloves were you using?
Oh, good question, mate. I can't remember, mate. I really, that's in my memory. I can't remember. That was a real real boxing gloves.
Because isn't the lighter they are, they hit you harder too? Or the more ounce they are, the softer the hit?
When you get hit by George Cambosis Jr., don't matter what gloves you got. Okay? You know, like, you're going to get hurt. But look, I mean, you know, some of the stuff we choreograph, some of the stuff we don't. Some of the stuff I go and I say, let's just spar. And we'll shoot a good 1 or 2 minutes of just sparring. Not rehearsed, just sparring. And most of the time with boxers, mate, they're good. They can hit you enough to not to hurt you. You know, they're trained that way. And then the odd time, you know, human mistake, you get hit, and you just soldier on.
You mentioned, are you involved with MMA as well?
No, mate.
Have you ever had an interest in mixed martial arts?
Well, I watch it. MMA for me, I'm old school, mate. MMA is a bit too violent for me. UFC, I think it's way too violent. You know, I like boxing. You know, I've always loved boxing, kung fu, that kind of stuff. Boxing's always been a thing for me. But with MMA at the moment, I've taken interest in it because in retreat, I've got a couple of fighters in that are MMA fighters. And I need them in the film because there's some big scenes where I need their skill. So I've taken interest in the last probably 8 months, mate, and they train the house down, mate. They're machines. They are.
Because Dana White, the president of the UFC, said boxing's dying for some reason. Like, UFC's taken over everything.
He's right, because, I mean, you know, boxing's lost a lot of characters. At the moment, if you look at boxing, you know, there's no Mike Tyson anymore, Evander Holyfield, you know, Kostya Tszyu. You know,
Anthony Mundine's not boxing anymore. Yeah,
so there's all those great boxers that are around. There's not many around anymore. Like, you know, Whittaker, you know, all those guys, you know, they're gone. So I look around some of the boxing and I just don't see anyone that I think is up there with those guys. You know, you know, and characters. I want characters as well. You lose those characters, you know. And he's right. At the moment, UFC is bigger than boxing, you know, because UFC has characters. You know, Gregor, for example, he's a big character. As much as they hate him, they still want to watch him. And boxing was like that with guys like Mike Tyson. You know, people would watch him. You know, same with you know, what's his name, Kostya Tszyu. You know, so he's right on the world stage. I think boxing needs to reignite something.
Have you ever had an interest in, like, wrestling, WWE, WWF?
I used to be a WWE fanatic. I used to love it. I used to watch them when they came out. But you kind of, you know, where generations change. You know, I liked WWE back in the day when, you know, The Rock was there. You know, Goldberg. You know, my era back then. So, and now it's changed. Now sometimes my kids watch it and I watch it and it's just like, yeah.
It's become a PG show and it's not good anymore to watch, in my opinion.
You know, I think it's just normal. It happens. You know, it's over time. With time, things change. We change. What we don't like anymore. Or characters change. You know, it's like you speak to anyone. If I speak to someone older than me, they'll tell me, "Oh, back in their days, it was much better." People were so much better. They were so cool. They were better wrestlers. You know. Then I'll say the same thing to my kid. Then my kid's gonna say the same thing to his kid. And I think that's all it is. It's just change.
Well, there was a time Mick Foley got thrown off the Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker, literally.
Yeah. Fuck. You know, those wrestlers, for example, you know, Mike Foley, all those guys. You know, they were characters. You know, Andre the Giant. You know, Hulk Hogan. You know, that's, you know, who I grew up around. You know, people tell me now, for example, like, you know, Dwayne Johnson, action star. I always argue. I said, no, he's not. He's not as good as the ones in the 80s and 90s. You know, Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and, you know, and the new generation said, no, you know, That's evolution.
Mm.
What happens? If I speak to my dad would be telling me, like, Burt Lancaster, those guys, John Wayne. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, George, thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you on social media?
Mate, I've got a Instagram, George Basha Official. Facebook, George Basha. That's about it. I don't have too many others, mate. They're the two.
Awesome.